800 years ago, this was the site of the Augustinian Abbey of St Mary's. Established in 1146, it grew to become one of the largest and most prosperous abbeys in Derbyshire. Sadly, little remains of the once proud abbey today. The most intact building is this fine public house, which still receives its fair share of worshippers even today. However, recent excavations have recovered evidence of 3 medieval walls and a medieval pavement, so who knows what lies in wait for the future. Situated barely 1 mile outside of the bustling city of Derby is Darley Abbey, named after the abbey that once stood here. Today Darley Abbey has become a very desirable residential area of the city, nestled quietly away from the traffic noise and the bustle of the main roads, with beautiful parklands and the riverside on its doorstep. For hundreds of years, from the establishment of the abbey in the 12th century through to its dissolution during the time of Henry VIII, little would have been seen to change in Darley Abbey. Until that is, in the late 18th century, when a man called Thomas Evans arrived to take advantage of the power in the River Derwent and to build what was to become his Boar's Head cotton mill on the east banks of the river. Thomas Evans, born in 1723, was a banker, industrialist and a cotton manufacturer, and along with his contemporaries Sir Richard Arkwright and Jedediah Strutt, who both built their own mills further up the Derwent, he became instrumental in the development of the modern factory system and, at the same time, was unknowingly creating part of what is known today as the Derwent Valley Mills World Heritage Site. By the 17th century, Darley Abbey had already begun to become established as an industrial hamlet, and by 1730 there were 4 water-powered mills here: a corn mill, a paper mill, a fulling mill and a leather mill. But they were simply cottage industries when compared with what was to come. The rate of development in Darley Abbey during the late 18th and early 19th centuries must have been quite incredible. In 1780, just prior to Evans building his first mill on the east bank of the Derwent, Darley Abbey comprised just 16 houses. 21 years later, in 1801, there were 615 people living here. 30 years later, the population had grown to more than 1,000. By developing Darley Abbey, Evans wasn't just providing somewhere for his workers to live, he was taking part in the creation of a whole new kind of community, all based around servicing the new factory system of working. From 1790 onwards, new houses began to appear throughout Darley Abbey. Neat, brick-built terraces of workers' houses, mostly 3 stories in height, were slowly forming the streets of Darley Abbey. By 1811, Flat Square, Hill Square, Brick Row and the upper part of Mylash Lane had been developed. By the 1820s, New Road and Lavender Row had appeared, and by the 1870s the lower end of Mylash Lane had been completed. Many of the houses would also have had yards, allotments, outbuildings and pigsties attached or near to them. Although these were counted as simple workers' houses, they actually enjoyed the benefit of one of the country's very first sewage disposal systems. It's ironic that today some of the most sought after houses in Derby are these simple workers' terraces. built almost 200 years ago to house the common working man and his family. Thomas Evans himself died in 1814, but the continued development of his mills and the ever-growing Darley Abbey community carried on under the direction of his family. To maintain production in their mills, the Evans family needed a hard-working, healthy and disciplined workforce. Such a large number of people and their families took a lot of looking after, so the Evans started to look towards providing for them. For the workers' spiritual needs, the Church of St Matthew was completed in 1819. To provide education, St Matthew's School appeared in 1826, and both buildings still stand today. For leisure activities, the village playing field was created on the opposite side of the Derwent, and two farms, Village Farm and Home Farm, were also created to supply the workforce with fresh provisions. Neither of these farms remains today. The Evans family weren't just responsible for helping to develop Darley Abbey, they lived here too. They were residents of Darley House, which stood overlooking both the mill complex and the village itself. Darley House was eventually demolished in 1932, the only part remaining now being the old gatehouse. But what the Evans family will be best known for to the people of Derby City is this wonderful place, Darley Park. Although the Evans remained at Darley until 1929, the cotton mills had already passed out of their hands in 1903. The paper mill on the village side of the river was demolished in the 1930s, and finally even Darley Hall was demolished in 1962, with a terrace and cafe now standing on its foundations. Even though the mills on the other side of the river here are no longer used for cotton production, they still remain very much the same as when Thomas Evans first built them. Darley Abbey has changed, losing something of its rural aspect, but it still remains, even to this day, a tranquil haven on the outskirts of the city, sited on the banks of the River Derwent, which has more stories to tell upstream.